Good morning and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hachem with US Arab Radio. Happy Friday to all and thank you for listening and for being with us. We have a great show for you today. It has been an interesting year, if I could say so. The war in the Middle East, the election of Donald Trump, the departure of Assad in Syria, and many, many other things have happened. And who knows what could happen? We still have 2 more weeks before the end of the year. With us this morning to review the year is Dr. Ronald Stockton, a retired professor of political science at the University of Michigan, Dearborn. Good morning, Dr. Stockton. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Appreciate it. It has been an interesting year, if I could say that. You know, a lot had happened, and who knows what else. And what are your thoughts?
Well, I used to tell my students that 1968 was the worst year in American history, and I keep having to update that. I'm not sure I could say that anymore. So we've had some bad years, and I don't know where this one's going to turn out. But this is certainly one of the most momentous years, as you noted. All of these things that happened, each one of them worthy of a lengthy discussion because of its impact on so much of our life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's start, locally and nationally here. The election of Donald Trump. I mean, we knew he was a good contender, but for him to win with such a number and such, so many states and so forth and so on, and the poor show up of the Democrats, that was really kind of stunning to a lot of people.
I was surprised. I say this as a political scientist. Like everyone else, I have my own views, but I try to be analytical and detached as I'm looking at political processes. And when I heard someone about 2 weeks before the election say that one of those two candidates, those 7 battleground states, are so close that one of those candidates could win all 7 of them, I thought, wow, that's not likely, but it's certainly probable or possible, because they were all within one or two percentage points, and usually 1 or 2 percentage points means you can't tell who's ahead and who's behind. So that was shocking. I think that Trump swept so many states that we weren't thinking he would take, and that he got a majority. There's nobody since George W. Bush, no Republican since George W. Bush, who's got a majority. The Republicans are the minority party. I'm not sure they're the minority party anymore. So we're going to have to wait. There's some laws of political voting that sometimes a presidential election is an outlier. It surprises everyone, and it's not what you expect. And you have to wait for 2 years to see what happens in the next congressional elections. So for people who want to take a note to themselves, if they'll wait for 2 years and see what happens, if the Republicans pick up seats, then we'll know that the Republicans are now the majority party. If the Democrats come back, we'll know that this was a fluke. So we can't really tell yet, but what we can tell is that we have President Donald Trump 2.0.
Exactly. He was a surprise in 2016, and he was a surprise now. Actually, he wasn't. I predicted 2016 he would win, and I predicted he would win, but I didn't think he would sweep like this. The reason is, and I like your opinion on it, is I did not think that Harris was a good candidate. I thought that the Democrats shot themselves in the foot for not having a primary and keeping President Biden in the mix. What are your thoughts?
Well, Biden made it difficult for the Democrats because he insisted to the very end. We still don't know exactly why he decided to quit. It may have been a family decision. It may have been a health decision. I think nobody's wanting to talk about this. But when Lyndon Johnson stepped down, of course, the Vietnam War was a major factor. But Johnson had always also met with some doctors. He was worried about his health. He had had a heart attack and his father had died early. And the doctor said to him, he said, I need a serious assessment of my lifespan. And the doctor said to him, you probably are not going to live long enough to finish the second term. So that was a factor that we didn't know about until many years later. I'm not sure if maybe Biden got a medical assessment that his Parkinson's, which is obvious, that his Parkinson's is maybe worse than he seemed. But we don't know why he stepped down. But the fact is, stepping down at the last minute is exactly as you say. It deprived the Democrats of the right to have a primary, which it might have produced Harris, it might have produced someone else. We don't know.
Yeah.
But definitely it deprived the Democrats of that vigorous struggle, which at the time is a difficult struggle, but in retrospect, it will make the party stronger if they have a fight for the nomination. And they didn't have.
Absolutely. As you well know, it would have led him to test the ground and see where the support is, and it gives them a dry run for the general election, and they would have seen, that the young voters are turned off by the war, and something else need to be happened.
That's right.
And
I said early on, by the way, early on, when Biden was still in the race, I said I thought this war might cost the Democrats the election. If you look at the polls, they didn't include the war in the factors of how you're voting. And there were polls about the war which showed exactly what you mentioned, that young people were really turned off by that war. And there's a generational gap. But people of my age were very strongly supportive of the war and of Israel. But younger people of my grandkids' age, those younger people were all turned off by that war. And I thought, and I began saying early on that I thought this war could cost the Democrats the election. The reason being that very often people vote based on a feeling that maybe the government is not in control of the situation. And every time someone said, we're working day and night to get the hostages out, I thought to myself, you're just telling us that you're a failure, that you're totally incapable of doing anything.
No.
And because obviously the hostages are not out, and obviously Netanyahu has got his own agenda, whatever that is. But I think the war played a greater role in determining the outcome of the election than most observers have said it up to this point.
And it did benefit Netanyahu tremendously.
Oh, sure.
I mean, not Netanyahu. It did benefit Trump, I would say.
I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would say. By the way, when after October 7th, everybody in Israel wanted to get rid of Netanyahu. He dropped the ball. He just Netanyahu had always been the tough guy. He's like Saddam Hussein. I'm tough. I can protect you from your enemies. And people said, okay, we can put up with all the other stuff. You just protect us. And Netanyahu always was that way. And then after October 7th, it turned out this guy had been warned in advance. Had been told there's troop movements. There's strange things happening in Gaza. We better get ready. And he did nothing. And I thought, okay, he's done for. The Israeli public. His popularity was down into below 20% of people who wanted to see him continue in office. And then you see what happened. That sucker came to Washington, D.C. and was treated like a hero. And he sent a message that I control Washington. Biden cannot force me to do anything, because look at those senators and members of Congress jumping up and down like monkeys in a zoo, seeing bananas. And I use some colorful metaphors here, but yeah. I thought that once he did that, he would. I mean, that was the greatest campaign rally in the history of campaign rallies. It basically turned around Netanyahu's career and made it obvious that the Americans had no influence whatsoever. Just keep sending us weapons and keep your opinions to yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and play misdirection. I mean, what the administration was saying and what the administration was doing are totally different things, you know.
Yes,
And that
yes.
misdirection have helped. I don't know if it was his strategy, but it did help Netanyahu tremendously.
He's an amazingly difficult person, and he really doesn't like Americans much. So any president would have had trouble with him. But I think almost any president could have handled him better than, if you look at the last few presidents we've had, they could have handled him better than
Yeah, then Biden. Yeah,
Biden did. Yeah.
yeah. Do you think that Netanyahu's obsession with Iran made him drop the ball on October 7th?
I haven't thought of that, that maybe he was looking. I've always said, I taught for 40 years. I taught a course on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And I would say to my students, the Israelis are looking the wrong direction. Iran is not going to drop a nuclear weapon on them. They would get blown to smithereens if they did. But there's something that's going to happen inside.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe you're right on this, that maybe he was so obsessed with Iran, and
He still is.
and still is, exactly. And even now there's speculation. I read 3 Israeli papers every morning, and they have Netanyahu is openly talking about making strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. I mean, those are non-weaponized nuclear facilities, but what the Israelis say is that, oh yeah, they're non-weaponized, but they could flip a switch and suddenly they become weaponized. So we're going to destroy them. And they're even talking about having joint strikes with the Americans, which they would like, because that would be harder to retaliate from that. So
Yeah.
I think that's a very scary scenario, that if they went
It
to
is,
war,
and it's going to happen.
it could.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, watching the discussion between Trump and Netanyahu, and then the noise that's coming out of Israel, and you gotta follow the talking points that are given to all of the organizations in the United States, what they're and their friends in the media, whether there are many of them, and the prep for something going on in Iran is reaching really an incredible height from what I've seen,
Yeah.
and that's not gonna go as easy as Netanyahu thinks is gonna go. I mean, there'll be retaliation. It might not be as effective, but there'll be retaliation, in not on Israel per se, but in other areas as well.
There are I think 52 major Jewish organizations. I've forgotten the number, but a certain number, and they have a weekly meeting. They all have offices in I've forgotten, New York or Washington, but anyway, they all have offices in one place, and they meet every week with the Israeli ambassador. So they're very attuned to what Israeli thinking is. So I often think that if you look at what many of those organizations basically repeat what they're told to repeat.
Mhm.
So if you'll hear them, what they're saying, you can sometimes detect what Israeli policy is.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't mean to suggest that they're not, faithful Americans or whatever, but they do try to support Israel in its arguments and in its policies, and so that's
It gives
something.
us a clue. Yeah, it gives us a clue what
It
may
gives
happen in the
exactly
Middle East.
gives us a clue.
Yeah, yeah.
We can see what's coming.
Yeah, yeah. I was having a discussion with a professor from the Poynter Institute in St. Petersburg, Florida, and she said that she was she's working with NPR in regard to help him with news, and Michelle Kellerman was doing a story on the UN, and I said to her, well, that tells me that Israel is upset with the UN. That means next week Israel is going to bomb the UN. And she said, no, there is no way Israel will do that. And lo and behold, that's what happened. This is the prep. The prep is to play in the psyche of listeners that this is a legitimate target, and then the then it happens. And I've seen it happens many times like that. And
Yes.
it's unfortunate. Did it surprise you that the war in Gaza took this long, or it's taken this long?
Uh, I always told my students, you have to put yourself in the mind of someone else to
Yeah.
understand what's going on. And I think when the Americans said to Netanyahu, don't do what we did after
9/11.
September 11th,
Yeah. Yeah.
we went crazy. We sent our army into Afghanistan, then we sent our army into Iraq, and we did damage to ourselves. So they paid no attention to us. This was, if I'm thinking, if I were an Israeli and I saw a massacre like that, people forget there were three separate attacks on October 7th. One was an attack on military positions, which is a legitimate that's a legitimate military target. If you target someone, that's an act of war, but it's a legitimate target. Secondly, they attacked settlements that were around that ring Gaza, and those are put there specifically because they ring Gaza. And what Hamas wrote an explanation. Basically, they wrote a full Al-Aqsa Flood, it's called, which is the name of that movement.
Mm-hmm.
And they explained what they were doing, and they said basically these are military positions, and everybody in all the men, at least in those settlements, those positions were in the military. So that to them that made a legitimate target. What was definitely not a legitimate target under international standard was the attack on the music. Yeah, and so that was that. If you want to use the word terrorism, that was terrorism, killing innocent civilians. And so I'm thinking, if I were an Israeli, how would I react? I would want vengeance, and I would want a lot of bloodletting. That's how I would be thinking if I were an Israeli. And Netanyahu picked up on that. He realized this is and that's probably what he wanted too. He wanted to destroy those people. And I have a podcast. You know this. I've got a podcast called Stockton After Class, and I did a podcast summarizing the main points of the South African document accusing Israel of genocide. And there are two aspects under the International Genocide Convention. There are two things. One is you've got to have intent, and one, you've got to have the actions. So you've got to be killing people for that purpose. So if you look at the words that Netanyahu used, he often quoted a passage about Amalek. Amalek is a story in the Bible when the Hebrews were moving and they got attacked by this tribe, and it was like a sneak attack. And God, through Samuel, says, God has ordered you to kill every last one of them. Kill every man, woman, child, toddler, suckling, and destroy the sheep, destroy the lambs, destroy the cattle, everything. Netanyahu quoted that at least twice in directions to his soldiers. Conduct a campaign of extermination. And that's the basis of the genocide charge, those kinds of statements coming out of the Israeli leadership. And so they reacted really. I've got to admit, I was surprised at how they decided basically to destroy Gaza. And I'm thinking back in history, the time of the Carthage wars with Rome, and finally there's a senator who rose in the Senate and said Carthage must be destroyed. And they conducted a war of extermination. They killed everyone. They destroyed. They flattened all the construction, all the buildings, and they even sent in they had plows and they plowed up the land and put salt in it. So nobody could ever live in Carthage again. It's completely exterminated. I think that's you've caused us so much grief over and over again. We've beaten you in a military way, but you just keep coming. And
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe that was the logic that analogy of Carthage is a very
Exactly.
close
Yeah.
one.
What we're going to do is we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
Behind the scenes, Michigan's public health team is working to make Michiganders across the state healthier. Bringing healthcare closer to home with mobile clinics, increasing access to healthy food through farmers markets and WIC, doing hearing and vision screenings in schools, helping families navigate healthcare challenges. Learn more about how public health workers protect us all at michigan.gov/public health. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Life for Relief and Development has now been rated as one of the best charities for humanitarian aid. Life's humanitarian projects span the globe, and Life is celebrating its 30th anniversary of providing essential life-saving aid to people and communities in 36 countries, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. Where there is life, there is hope. And when disaster occurs here or around the world, including being one of the first responders to the Turkey-Syria earthquake crisis, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. We are looking to help the earthquake victims, and we take 0% overhead on emergency donations. So please help improve these efforts. Learn more about our involvement to help the helpless and bring hope where it's needed most, and make your tax-deductible donation to Life for Relief and Development now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's 248-424-7493. With more than 30,000 successful in vitro fertilizations, IVF Michigan is now ranked as one of America's best fertility clinics according to Newsweek magazine. IVF Michigan fertility centers are the recognized leaders in high-quality fertility care. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 9 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. A founding member, American board-certified Dr. Nicholas Shama, is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. He has performed over 20,000 successful IVF cases, and it's helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. When it's time to get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at one of America's best fertility clinics, call IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio toll-free at 855-952-9600. 855-952-9600.
Welcome back, and thank you for being with us. We're talking to Dr. Stockton. We're talking about the year in review, and then we were talking about the Middle East. The October 7 attack took me by surprise. I knew something was boiling there, but I thought that Israel was going to launch a war against Hezbollah. Israel was preparing for that war. There was a lot of chatters in there among their friends. What's going to happen? Israel has been promising Hezbollah this war since 2006. And then to my surprise, Hezbollah joined the war, which gave Israel the reason that it needed to really, and to my surprise, that Hezbollah leaders thought that they could maintain that low level, and that was a miscalculation. And did that surprise you, how Israel eventually went after Hezbollah?
It sort of didn't. What didn't surprise me is that Hezbollah got involved in the war. And their actions were very, very successful. They basically just shelled across the border. That's what they were doing. They didn't kill very many people, but the people, there's a string of settlements right along the Lebanese border. And I've been to a couple of those. You can look out and see Lebanon. It's just right out there. And those settlements, they're not settlements, they're housing, they're towns. Those towns have been basically evacuated. They're still evacuated. There's 60,000 people left. So you had 60,000 Israelis from the north who went into they went into Tel Aviv or wherever they could find hotels, and the government is putting them up. And I'm assuming that our assistance is helping pay for that. And the same thing happened in the south, where many thousands of people fled the South and said, we're never going back. And I think to myself, if I were from one of those, I've been to Sderot, which is, you can stand in Sderot. It's on a little hill. You can look over and you see Gaza, and you can hear sounds coming from there. You know, a call to prayer and whatever. It's that close. And I'm thinking, if I lived there, if I had kids, would I go back? And
No.
I don't think I would. And so the people from the South are permanently, it seems, living in those hotels. The people from the North are permanently living in those hotels. So this has been really, really damaging for Israel. But I wasn't surprised. You know, you'll remember that time that the Israelis during the Intifada, they grabbed a bunch of Hamas leaders from Gaza and just expelled them. They just
Yeah.
pushed them
To Lebanon,
literally, yeah, into Lebanon, right across the border. And nobody knew what to do with them. The Lebanese government was not very good at figuring out what to do. But within an hour, Hezbollah had shown up with tents and food and supplies. And you know, those Palestinians said, we're not leaving. The assumption was they put them there and then they would go off to Baghdad or somewhere, you know, and settle in. And they said, we're not leaving. We're going to sit right here where we can see, you know, Palestine, which is, you know, Israel. And at that point, Hezbollah and Hamas, which are really very different organizations, you know that. They've got histories and different traditions and different goals. They became very closely linked together. And Hamas was better at resistance at that point in time. And they gave those Hamas leaders training, and you know, how do you actually train your soldiers and make them effective? So from that point on, Hamas and Hezbollah were really very close together, even though they're from different religious traditions within Islam and they've got different backgrounds.
That was the Marj al-Zuhur area. What's his
face? And those differences all just disappeared. And so there's a close linkage there. And anyway, I was sort of not surprised that they started shelling. And I thought it was really, really effective for about a year. And then the Israelis went in and they basically decapitated Hezbollah with those explosives. So that was at this point, we have to say that Israel is in a very powerful position. They've basically crushed Hamas. And I mean, Hamas exists in the West Bank as well, but and even in some places within Israel, but basically they've crushed Hamas and they've decapitated Hezbollah, and Assad is gone, and they've conducted 500 airstrikes into Syria, blowing up every single military position, you know, all of their supplies and everything. So I would say they're in an extremely powerful position.
Don't you think they're making the wrong decisions, though? They're going into grabbing land in Syria and then, you know, and then saying they're going to double settlements there, and then they may even take more land. I mean, I see it as a seed for another conflict. Every time they're in a strong position, instead of compromising, what they're doing is they're doing worse what they did before, which is take more land.
You put it exactly the way I see it, that they're taking advantage of Syria has done what people used to say about the Iraqis. Why do we have to do this? Why don't the Iraqis get rid of Saddam? Well, they try. Every time they tried, we didn't back them up, so we didn't have much of a position on that. But why don't the Syrians get rid of Assad? Well, they've done that now. They got rid of him, and there were no foreign armies involved. There were no foreign happened, and the Syrian people were ready to be rid of him, and he's gone. And so this seemed to me like a wonderful opportunity. And I don't know if anybody believes that Syrian leader, that he's a non-aggressive person. I kind of do, but maybe I think if I were an Israeli, I would say, well, you're now the nice, happy face ISIS or whatever. You are, but you're going to take that mask off pretty soon and reveal what you really are.
Exactly.
And when Ayatollah Khomeini came to power, you remember he put all these moderate people in his cabinet and declared that he was not in favor of an Islamic State. And then within, a couple months, he was moving towards an Islamic State. So he revealed his true colors at that point. But I think probably the Israelis are thinking that we better weaken this regime before they reveal who they really are. And I think, and I've been in that Mount Hermon, Sheikh area, where the mountain is, and it looks over into. I've been in Quneitra, Syrian
I did a report there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That city had 50,000 people, and then in 67, the Israelis destroyed it basically, and people fled into Damascus, and then as a part of the negotiation agreement, thank you, Henry Kissinger, the Israelis pulled back and gave the city itself to Syria, and they created a neutral zone between Syria and Israel, and now the Israelis are penetrating that neutral zone,
They even went beyond that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And
they went beyond that.
Yeah.
Israelis cannot resist occupying land. This is one of their biggest weakness and problem as far as I'm concerned.
I think you're right. If you go back, people go back to 1919 when the great powers in Europe were trying to decide what to do with this region, and they were dividing up the Turkish provinces and creating the province of Palestine, which the Jews were there, and they said, we want, the Zionists were there, and they said, we want a Jewish state there. And they gave a famous map, the so-called Zionist map. Said, this is what we want the territory to be. So Palestine should include all of this territory. And it went up to the Litani River. That map went to the Litani River. So I always tell my Lebanese students, if they had gotten what they wanted, you'd be a Palestinian.
Exactly.
And they wanted, the Golan Heights, Golan Province. So they keep pushing in those areas where they have historically thought this would be a logical geographical space for us to occupy.
Yeah. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned. Welcome back, and thank you for being with us. We're discussing the events of the year with Dr. Stockton. Finally, I just want to, I see change in Iran, Dr. Stockton. I really do. Since the new president came in, Iran has a different focus, has an inward focus. They want to improve their economy. They're not as outward gung-ho as they used to be with the death of Raisi. Do you think that Trump may capitalize on that and do something useful there, or Netanyahu may win and get his way of destroying Iran?
Well, now isn't that a heck of a choice, huh? Either he follows Netanyahu and goes to war with Iran, which I think would be a nightmare, or he pursues American interest, which, as I see it anyway, he pursues a more rational strategy and negotiates with Iran.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking that, do you remember when Obama was president, Iran also elected a moderate president? I mean, the Iranian people are far more moderate than the regime is. And you give them anybody who sounds like a thoughtful person willing to respond to reality, and they're going to choose that person. So the Iranian public is I think ready for some shift in the way the country is positioned. But you see, if you're an Israeli, you think to yourself, the last thing we need is the United States being nice to Iran. Because we want to be the dominant power for their own security reasons. They want to be the dominant power in that region. And if the United States makes a deal with Iran, that's going to create two centers of power. We don't want two big, powerful states in this region. We want one.
Exactly.
And we want Iran to be marginalized. And so they're going to fight as much as they can against a settlement. I think Trump's advisors tend to be hawks. They tend to be neoconservatives, or worse even. So, but Trump himself is not. Trump is a person who's war averse. He really doesn't. I was one of the few people I know who was really pleased that he met with the dictator of North Korea.
Yeah.
My main objection was he didn't get anything. He just gave him the photo op, which he wanted, and then the guy got to go ahead and test his missiles, and we didn't get anything out of it. But that's his instinct. If we can reduce tension, then I'm going to do that. So his instinct would be, I think, to have a handshake with the president of Iran at some point. And that would be a nightmare for Netanyahu. He'll fight that as much as he can. So,
Absolutely.
And the new Secretary of State is
Rubio.
Is an old style war hawk regarding Iran. So we're going to have to see who's in control of this dog and pony show.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
I think this is one of the most momentous years that we've had, and in recent decades. And we don't know. You remember Steve Bannon, who was chief of staff for Trump in his first administration? He said, "I'm a Leninist. I want to destroy the state." And he got kicked out of the administration pretty early. But I think that is what we're being set up for. They're going to dismantle the administrative state. All of those agencies that regulate how much we get charged for interest on credit cards, and how drug companies have to test before they release their new drugs, which make them billions of dollars. They're going to dismantle all of those. That's their goal. They're even talking now. Just yesterday, Trump said we're talking about selling off the post office. Get rid of everything. You'll have a windfall of temporary income, so you can show that you've brought the budget under control. But you're selling off the basic assets. I hope they don't sell off Yellowstone. I love that place.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and we pray for everyone, including our country, and hopefully they'll make the right decision.
Okay, thanks for the conversation.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. Thank you. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
As the weather gets colder, it's a good idea to layer up with scarves, hats, and mittens. Another layer of protection this season is to get your flu and COVID-19 vaccines. You can get both vaccines at the same time. Talk to your healthcare provider or learn more at michigan.gov/COVID-flu-RSV and layer up for some added peace of mind. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Michigan's winter forecast is snow, snow, and more snow. And for a little variety, ice. Since that means slippery roads, stay safe by following these driving tips. Don't use cruise control on ice and snow. Use turn signals sooner to give others more time to react. Keep your car's fluids, tires, and wipers well maintained. And most important of all, drive slow on ice and snow. A message from the Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning.
Welcome back, and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hachem with US Arab Radio. We're going to shift to a different topic and talk about pioneers in our community. Pioneers, those who take a small idea and make it a successful business. And My interest in this is because I like food, and I like to feature people in our community who work hard, diligently, and then become successful. And one of those individuals is Tarek Abouljoud, who has taken a simple recipe and made it into a successful business. Good morning, Tarek, and thank you for being with us.
Good morning, Khalil. Thank you for having me on the show.
We appreciate it. Please tell us a little bit about you. Who you are, where you're from, and so we can find out who you are.
I migrated to the States in 1985 after finishing high school in Lebanon, and started working hard as any other immigrant. Eventually, after finishing my bachelor degree in accounting and my master in finance, I decided to work in the stock market, and I worked as a money manager for almost 23 years till 2010, a couple of years after the market crashed. At that moment, I lost my job. I used to be a partner at a firm and didn't want to leave our community here in Michigan. We have a major Lebanese Arabic community, and most of the financial jobs are outside Michigan. So with my passion to food, I used to cook a lot. When I was in Lebanon, growing up with my grandmother, which that's what I dedicated the name to her, Teta.
Teta, okay.
And I realized that there is a great opportunity in the food business, bringing our culture to the American people, to the American market, in a way where it's simple and easy to cook, where there are no challenges, especially in our environment now. People don't have time to cook.
Exactly.
And the biggest challenges are, number one, give them good flavors. Number two, make it easy and simple. And actually three things. And number three, the most important thing, is avoid chemicals and synthetic preservatives. And that was the beginning of Teta Foods' journey. Start doing research and analysis on the food industry, how you can launch a product and make it in a natural way, not using any chemicals or synthetic coloring, dye, and any other non-healthy ingredients. And we were able to come up with the three core products at the beginning, which are the shawarma, the fattoush salad dressing, and the shish tawuk, and the garlic sauce that everybody loves eating, whatever ethnicity they are.
Yeah.
And it took us about a year of research and market studies, and we were able to launch these products in 2011. And we started selling them to independent stores. Eventually, we picked up Whole Foods. Then Meijer came on board, then Kroger, and it started growing. Everything else became history. And the success has been behind it is the simplicity of the product, simplicity of use, authenticity, and the quality of ingredients and natural, which is the consumer is looking for at this moment. And
what's your grandmother's name?
We used to call her Teta. That's why I dedicated the name to her. I remember myself as a kid, growing up during the war. She used to babysit us when we didn't have school, trying to, to hide from whatever is going on the street. And I was next to her all the time, helping her cook, chop some vegetables, add this dressing, that dressing. And that's what created my passion towards food.
Yeah. Why you wanted, if you introduce preservatives and chemicals to it, it will give you a longer shelf life. Why do you decided not to do that?
I personally have a feeling, and I think the science started proving it after decades. All these preservatives, they have a side effect to our body. Our body cannot break it down. And one of the things, like hydrogenated oil even, just as a simple thing, that oil is processed in a way that it can handle so much heat without breaking down. And when we consume it, that's why we have all the heart diseases and everything else, cancer and so on over time. Even though they tell you, small amount, it's safe. But in my personal belief, when you consume something over 20, 30, 40 years, it's going to build up in your body.
Accumulates.
That's why we have all these health problems.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking behind you and I see 9 sauces. Are these the one you feature?
Yes,
Okay.
these are our core products, and we're looking to launch more at the beginning of the year.
Uh-huh.
I can say our top 5 products are sauces. Are the fettuccine salad dressing is number 1. Number 2 is the garlic sauce that they
Mhm.
use for shawarma. Number 3 is the shawarma marinade. Number 4 is the shish tawuk marinade, and number 5 is the tahini dressing that is
Mhm.
typically used either on falafel or on meat shawarma.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
kind of creating not only a product, creating a solution. If you feel like you want to have a wrap of chicken shawarma, you need the marinade for the meat and you
Mhm.
need the garlic sauce.
Mhm.
If you want to have a meat shawarma, you need the marinade, you need the tahini. So we created kind of a solution for people to be able to enjoy the Lebanese food at home with a matter of like 20 to 30 minutes to cook it
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
and present it.
How many do you distribute here in Michigan or outside Michigan nationwide?
Currently, we are in the Midwest,
Mhm.
mostly independent stores. In terms of large chain stores, we have Meijer, Kroger, some Whole Foods. This year, we were in Michigan for the fettuccine salad dressing at Costco.
Mhm.
And Costco is kind of a selective seasonal thing. We're not sure every year. At the end of the year, they make a decision if they want to carry the product for another year. We've been there for a couple of years.
Mhm.
And lastly, the most important and the best thing, with the cost of shipping coming down through Amazon and many other platforms, we've been able to launch our website, tetafoods.com,
Mhm. Mhm.
where people can buy 3 items or more, get a 10% discount, or they can buy over $40 and pay no shipping, and the cost of the bottle will be the same as much as buying it off the retail shop.
Mhm. Mhm.
That will open up our market to basically to the whole United States.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And when did that start?
About 3 weeks ago.
Okay, okay. How's that going so far?
It's going pretty good. We also launched our products on Google platform, the
Okay.
Google Shop platform, and we're advertising through Google. This
Mhm.
is all new to us because we feel like the market is shifting.
Mhm.
What I mean by that, people are more going online, and we're
Mhm.
fortunate with the logistics of the market, specifically the shipping to the consumers. Now the average cost per shipment dropped to about $7 per box.
That's good.
When our website, when the client buys over $40, then we'll be able to carry the cost, and they will be able to enjoy the product at the same cost of buying it at the retail without really going to the retail shop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, I find myself doing a lot of that as well. And what I like about what you said is the fact that it is natural and doesn't have chemicals in it and you mentioned to me before that it's non-GMO.
Yeah, it's non-GMO certified.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean for those who are not familiar with
None
it?
of the ingredients that are in it are genetically modified.
Okay, okay.
And we use olive oil, canola oil, and many of the ingredients that we use, like the emulsifiers, are extracted from corn. And
Mm-hmm.
corn has been a high risk item in terms of genetic modification. And
Mm-hmm.
this is why we're trying to avoid it. We're using everything non-genetically modified.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And our products are certified by the non-GMO Project Verified.
Yeah. Where do you buy your olive oil?
Spain.
Okay.
Yeah, and Spain has been really, we buy extra virgin olive oil, and it's the largest producing country in the world. The pricing is competitive for us to be able to use it as a manufacturer. And number two is, which actually is number one, is the quality, is the top quality where, I mean, you can smell the oil when we use it, the olives,
That's
when,
good.
when we
That's
use it
good.
in our
Yeah.
ingredients.
Yeah. Yeah. Your plant is here in Michigan, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
we are based in Clinton Township in Macomb County.
Mm-hmm.
Our current facility is about 8,000 square feet,
Mm-hmm.
and we're fully automated. It's kind of interesting thing that I encourage people to start any idea. When we started in a little 1,000 square feet shop, and we start using little machines, manual, putting the cap by hand, so on, and the label, and then sticking the date and everything. And now our operation is fully automated.
Yeah. Give me an idea, like what kind of operation is this? Like how many sauces do you sell? What if there's like a dollar amount, something like that, so we can get an idea for your success.
Yeah, currently we have 9 products. And the way our operation runs, we get orders from stores and distributors, and then we have 3 weeks lead time. Mm-hmm. During that time, we set up our schedule, what we're looking to produce, and we try to automate as much as we can to cut down on the cost of labor, and these savings will pass them on to the consumer.
Sure.
And on average, like we start our day around 6 o'clock, and today we're gonna make like 2 batches of fattoush, 1 shish taouk, whatever is on the list. On average, it's about 4,000 bottles. Mm-hmm. And we start around 7 o'clock. We get done with the process around 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And afterward is basically sanitizing the place and processing our orders for shipping and receiving.
Yeah. What's in your garlic sauce?
It's about 60% oil, mm-hmm. about 10% water and vinegar for preservation. And the rest is garlic, almost 20% garlic. Mm-hmm. And this is a thing one thing is about our garlic. If you come to our factory, you're going to smell it. We consume on average about 1,000 to 2,000 pounds of garlic per month.
Wow.
And our garlic comes from California. We don't buy any Chinese garlic or any other unless we're going to make sure that the garlic is not bleached, mm-hmm. or processed. This is one thing is about pre-peeled garlic. Many individuals, they do not know that also these things, they soak them in chemicals and many other things to preserve it. Sure. Ourselves, we get it from Christopher Ranch garlic. That's what we use from California. And we have about 15 days to process on our own proprietary preservation way and use it. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the key of our success. We're using the old-fashioned preservation way, and we have the optimal formula where it does not impact the flavor to a point where you feel, oh, it's too vinegary, oh, it's too lemony, it's too this or too that, where we preserve the flavor, the product and the flavor at the same time.
Mm-hmm. What kind of comments do you get from people when they buy the sauces?
I tell you, they love it. They love it. My only challenge has been, we can't find it. Where can we get it?
Yeah.
And we, as a small company, we've been facing the challenges of dealing with large corporations like Kroger and many others, and mm-hmm. large distributors. Yeah. And I think most of the consumers do not understand that by the time our product leaves the shop, the price technically almost more than double or triple. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. At sometimes it triples, and a lot of it has to do with the chain of distribution and the mm-hmm. large retail store, their requirements. And this is a challenge that every small manufacturer, even manufacturers that do 5 million in sales or 10 million in sales, they're mm-hmm. going to face that. Mm-hmm. And I thought about it really hard in the last year, and we made strategic decision, a major change, where we're going to push our products online and try to figure out how the consumer can pay the same price that they buy it at the retail store without paying for shipping. Sure. That's number one. And number two, we want to support the individual small community stores. And since we're facing our challenges with large national distributors, we're planning to launch a business-to-business website within the next 4 to 6 weeks, where basically we can drop ship the cases to individual mom and pop shop, and they're not going to be paying more than what they pay to the distributor.
That's good. That's good. This way you keep the prices down.
Yes, it has been challenging to reach that level. I give a credit to all the logistics, how they're changing now. With the more volume is going, the prices have been coming down. And we want to take advantage of it and pass it on to our clients and retail stores or individuals.
Wonderful. And where can people find you?
Right now, I can say the best, most reliable place where they can buy all the products is tetafoods.com. Teta, it's spelled Tom, Teta Foods.com. In case they are local in Michigan or anywhere in the Midwest, they will be able to find it at independent retail stores. Meyer carries 5 products of our line in their Middle Eastern section. It has been one of our most reliable store. We thank them for the business. They've been really the Michigan supporting Michigan companies, and also all the independent Michigan stores that we have. The only challenge with it, they may not find the whole line of products.
Sure,
And
sure.
this is why I've been recommending, if they're looking for things that are unique, they don't find at the store, they can go to our website.
On the website. Okay, okay. If anybody has any question to you, can they call you?
They can. Our phone is listed on the company website. Contact us. There is a form or
What
phone
is it?
number. And yes, and we take any questions.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Final thoughts?
Well, I want to thank Michigan, all our loyal customer and our loyal businesses, and thank you for bringing our word to the consumer.
Absolutely.
For Michigan.
Yeah. And what's your advice to people who are starting a business? You know, they have an idea, they want to start. What would be your advice?
I personally think that a real financial study, number one, is really important. No matter what, without the money, you cannot run a business. You need to set up a plan, budget on what you're looking to do, and then what you're going to sell. And then the second plan is, the second portion of the plan, you need to figure out, what are you looking to sell? What is the value added to the consumer in that product? What is the final pricing you're going to be? Are you going to be able to compete? Is it going to make sense to the consumer that when they buy your product? Is it going to add any value? And if you feel that all these variables, the answer is yes, I can do it, then you can go ahead and move forward with it.
Yeah. Takes a lot of courage to do that.
It does. I mean, myself personally, when I started this business, whatever I got as a settlement from my previous company, I put it all in the business. And but I knew at the time, if I created only one product, I'm gonna fail. I'm not gonna be able to sell enough to break even.
Sure.
So it's a combination of factors. It's not only, no matter how great your product is, everybody else can make it or make somebody close to it or whatever. But you need to create some kind of I would call it like a solution. And that's what I created. I created a solution to the consumer that is looking to enjoy Middle Eastern food at home.
Yeah. Wonderful.
And it became a product line that complement each other and gave me enough sales volume to be able to break even and move forward and grow the business.
Wonderful. Tarek, I really want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. Congratulations on your success, and we wish you more success in the future.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on the program.
Absolutely. Teta Foods. It is tetasfoods.com. Is that correct?
Yes, tetafoods.com.
Tetafoods.com. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes. Take care.
At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain.
Hey Michigan, let's think beyond the sink and learn where the water your family drinks every day comes from. Private wells and public water supplies allow homes across Michigan to draw water from different sources like lakes, rivers, and groundwater. Tap into the facts about your home's water source and learn about your home's water quality to protect your family's health. Visit michigan.gov/care for MI drinking water. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back, and thank you everyone for listening. Thank you to Dr. Stockton for being with us, and thank you for Tarek for being with us. We wish you good luck with the new business. You have a wonderful. I don't think I'll talk to you before the end of the year. You have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and wish you safe holidays. Bye now.